Zed has a problem. An epic snowstorm has hit his Minnesota superstore, and he has stayed behind to do a little unnecessary paperwork. Unfortunately for Zed, his last employee left 2 hours ago for a blizzard that hit 1 hour ago. Zed is stranded. He realizes this as he catches the gaze of a visitor in his lobby. The very visitor he promised to take to the airport 3 hours ago. Unfortunately, I am that visitor. Because of Zed's lack of prognostication skills, we now both have a problem. A very car can't get out of the parking lot, Frosty has a frozen corncob nose problem. A blizzard is a good metaphor for Zed's life. His employees offer him a wintry mix of eye rolls and detachment. His boss has threatened to put him out in the cold, and from the sound on the other end of the phone, his wife is freezing him out as well. While Zed is consoling his wife, I'm on the other line consoling his boss. "You better fix him, Chris Angel," said his boss. "I was going to fire him, but your boss said you would work your hocus pocus magic on him before I could do anything." You see, our boss is our CEO. As the young new executive on the team, Zed's boss wasn't quite confident in my prestidigitation skills just yet. My new role has put me in charge of the leadership development program. Confident and full of energy, I see fixing Zed as my opportunity to prove to my skeptic audience that I'm ready for prime time. So for the next 12 hours, stranded in a Minnesota superstore, I used everything in my bag of tricks. In the first 4 hours, I was quite brilliant. I quickly won rapport with my compassionate listening skills and my electric personality and artistic flair. I even made Zed cry with some of those Barbara Walters type questions. I was quite the magic man, or so I thought. The next 4 hours proved the first 4 hours more chicanery than wizardry. While it was obvious Zed was a smart guy, I had no idea I was being hustled. Zed listened intently, even overflowed his notebook with notes, and he served as a laugh track to my best quips. Maybe it was the high sugar content of our vending machine dinner, but somewhere early in hour 4 disappeared the captivated student, and in his stead appeared a diabolical professor. Point by point, Zed used every bit of his MBA to dissect my theories like they were limp frogs on a lab table. He introduced me to the French philosopher Derrida's concept of deconstruction as he slashed my most treasured leadership concepts. He also threw in Deming's 7 deadly sins of management. Not sure what he meant by that. Zed obviously felt I had a lot of room for leadership improvement. For the final 4 hours, Zed the professor vanished once again and reappeared as a manic bartender, serving up a cocktail of excuses and blame. He opened hour 9 with strategic plans from the last 10 years, a collection of elaborate pie charts and graphs. Zed knew exactly what he needed to do to improve his profit. He knew exactly what he needed to do to improve the performance of his team. The maddening question was, if Zed knows what to do, why isn't he doing it? I sat with my CEO to discuss Zed. "So, are you going to be able to fix him?" I said, Zed's a smart guy, 10 years of experience. You know, the problem with Zed is he knows exactly what to do. He just won't do it. I don't know any magic for that. Well, the retort was very blunt and direct. If I followed your advice, then I'd have to fire them all. Yes, they all know exactly what to do. But I suggest you work your magic because we got a lot more Zeds that need fixing. There I was, stuck in the Zed dilemma. When a leader knows exactly what to do, but they won't do it. For the next decade, I traveled a journey to solve the Zed dilemma. In Malcolm Gladwell's bestseller, The Tipping Point, he describes a tipping point as a magical moment when an idea, a trend, or social behavior crosses a threshold, tips, and then spreads like wildfire. Now, I wanted to find the biggest magical moments that created the biggest magical differences so I could solve the Z dilemma. What I discovered was the tipping point game. A game played by every business, profit or nonprofit, church, family, small group, even tribe. Any gathering of 2 or more people play this tipping point game. Now, I discovered there are 3 observations about this magical game. Number 1 is all leaders play it. Number 2 is most leaders know they're playing it. And number 3, most leaders don't know what to do to win. The tipping point game is a game of strategy played by leaders with their followers. And here's how it works. Every company has 3 types of people. The first group are the A's. They are the positive impact, high performance players. Oftentimes they're your superstars, but often they're also the silent heroes behind the scenes. The second group are your B's. They are the people that have either a neutral impact or very little impact one way or the other, good or bad. And then your final group are your C's. Now your C's are the ones that create the negative impact. The object of the game is to tip your B's and C's toward your A's, to maximize the influence of your A's and to eliminate the influence of your C's. It's a simple game. Are you getting a mental picture of some people in your organizations that are A's, B's, and C's? Now, while every company will have different measurements to officially determine that magic moment, I can tell you one thing the numbers can't tell you. When you reach that magical moment, it's amazing. If you've ever talked to somebody who's been in a magical moment company, you know because you can look in their eyes. It's like a fine wine. When you taste it, you know it. And if you've ever been there, you know exactly what I'm talking about. One of the most amazing parts of magical moments is when the A's positive influence overtakes your culture. Confusion fades, revenues soar, expectation is treasured, and accountability is demanded. Conflict becomes an opportunity for improvement, not a political time for destruction. Strategically winning the tipping point game is not hard to understand. Implementing it, a little bit more difficult. First thing you got to do is recognize, develop, and find A's. Number 2, you have to replace or convert your C's. The ability to accomplish these strategies are what we call portal skills. We believe portal skills are the number 1 skill to win the tipping point game. And in a few minutes, it's also a pathway to solve Zed's dilemma. Jack Welch, former CEO of General Electric, tried to win the tipping point game in a very unique way. He forced his leaders to play this game. He would tell them to rank them and then yank them. While I'm not a big fan of termination quotas, there is no doubt that Jack and many other companies are applying these principles to win the tipping point game. So back to Minnesota I go for a visit with my friend Zed. Now my mission was to solve the Zed dilemma. What was obvious is Zed was losing the tipping point game. What wasn't quite so obvious was why. Zed was well prepared for our meeting. As we walked into his office, across his whiteboards, he had every employee ranked and coded. Now, what he used was the good, the bad, and the ugly. Basically, his A's, his B's, and his C's. After he rambled for a few minutes, I began with my opening question. Zed, what are you going to do about the C's? He replied, what do you mean? I said, are you going to educate or eliminate them? Well, they're not that bad, Zed said. So I picked up one of the profiles. I said, I looked at it. It says, Zed, it says here that this employee is rude, always late, keep him off the phone. I'm not sure what that means. And his QC rating is dead last. Sounds like a replacement to me. You know what Zed responded? He said, I love to take on the hopeless cases. Yeah. I mentor him every Tuesday after hours, and we're making great progress. I do this with all my C's. So Zed had 10 C's, and he was spending a lot of time with rude, selfish, low-performing employees. Maybe that could lead me somewhere to where he's having a problem. As he went more into excuse mode, I noticed something odd. I looked over to the side, and I noticed the official HR templates you're supposed to use for evaluation. I said, Zed, it doesn't appear you're using these. You got these nice profiles, but they're not really the HR profiles. You know what he said to me? And he said this in a whisper. Why he was whispering, I don't know. He said, hey, I got to convert these scores to the HR because if I don't give them the right score, they won't get a bonus. So Zed was actually going to reward them with bonuses for their bad behavior. So that might lead to some of our problems here. And so I tried a different approach. I said, Zed, you're a fan of Jack Welch and some of the vitality curve stuff that you mentioned last time. Don't you think you need to replace some of the C's? He looked back at me with a scowl and he said, you corporate guys just don't understand. I don't have time to interview. I don't have time to train. What makes you think there are better people out there anyway? So if I got it right, Zed knows he has negative impact employees. He knows he needs to replace them, but two reasons he doesn't. Number one, he doesn't have the time. Number two, he thinks he can't find anyone better. So he tolerates rude, low-performing, low-quality control employees because, quite simply, he feels like he doesn't have a choice. To hammer this home, I want to borrow your imagination. So picture, if you will, Zed is at a portal. He's at his portal, okay? He looks back and he sees the world. Then he looks back inside his organization and he sees his employees. He looks back in, he sees the A's. They're working hard. They're making positive impact, right? He sees some of the B's over to the side that are helping the A's. And then across the landscape, he sees some other B's. Well, there's a B hanging out with a C over there. Sounds like they're talking about Zed. And then there's a couple more C's that are sitting on the floor, and they're oscillating between their watches, see when it's time to leave, right? And typing on their smartphones. As Zed looks inside and he looks outside, it's no wonder he's frustrated. He can't help but think, well, how do I replace these C's if I look out and there's nobody waiting? Nobody. I guess I'll just have to live with it. And then an epiphany hit me. I had one word in the Zed dilemma wrong. It wasn't that Zed knows what to do but won't do it. He knows what to do, but he can't do it. While he is making do with his C's, their influence continues to slowly corrupt his culture. His A's are mad at him, or have left. When his C's don't do something he likes, out comes an angry email warning the entire culture of X, Y, and Z, and you better do that. You ever see those signs? They'll be posted up and it'll say management. That's how people with poor portal skills discipline their employees. So we penalize, accuse, and slander everyone, including your A's, because you are too scared to confront your C's. So what does Zed do? He goes out, he looks out into his portal, and he just begs people to come to his portal. And the first one that shows any kind of interest at all, he invites in. And the dysfunction continues. Now, I'm very emotional about this because I've seen so many companies and so many leaders that have suffered. I've created pain in the past. When you let C's poison your culture, they are punishing your best dedicated employees. You got to protect your A's. Now, I don't mean to say that C's are bad people, because they're not, but maybe they're just not a good fit. How many times have you seen training on interviewing skills where there's actual real role playing? How many times have you seen people trained on portal skills? The greatest companies have A's right there at the portal. When I talked about Zed sitting on the portal, they have somebody who is an A. Because who do you think the best people to find more A's are going to be? A's, right? Do you think Southwest or Google, do you think they worry about low performance when they have thousands of people lining up outside their portal? They need security at their portal, as a matter of fact, because people are trying to sneak in. They want to get in there so bad. What does your portal look like? Do you have A's there? Whether it's HR, leaders, or a combination, I would strongly suggest that leaders are a part of that process somehow. And here's the other thing I can tell you. I guarantee you, you can't win the tipping point game if you have B's and C's at your portal. Have A's, because the goal is to get more A's, right? There are a lot of Z's trapped out there. Maybe you're a Z, but you can change all that right now, right here. So here's your call to action. Now, what I've done to make it a little easier, and this is the exercise, is I've broken down portal skills into 5 little mini strategies, okay? It's in your workbook, but also here, I'll point them out. Write these down. Number 1, find your A's. Number 2, develop your A's. Number 3, reward your A's. 4, convert your C's. And 5, replace your C's. Now, under each one of those strategies, I want you to write the name of the person in your organization who's in charge of that. And then by their name, I want you to write A, B, or C. Do you have A's at your portal? Those are 5 critical areas to portal skills. Now, if you need help with this, of course, we are here to help. It's our passion. You can tell it's our passion. Just contact us. We'll give you that contact information. Now is your time to find your own magic moments. A moment that happens when your culture tips, creating a place where A's rise and spread positive impact like wildfire, where expectations are clear and accountability is demanded. Do it so that when you look into your customers' eyes, you can share that magic moment. They could see it in your employees. Do it for your hardworking people that make each and every day possible. Do it for your family, so when you go home at night, you can focus on them and not worry about all the dysfunction of losing the tipping point game. Do it for yourself. Go find your magic moments. Don't be a Z. Thank you.